I'm not sure if you've heard of this character, but today we're going to be covering one of Marvel's unknown heroes. I'm totally joking. If you've lived under a rock, then maybe you haven't heard of him. We're going to be covering your friendly neighborhood hero today, Peter Parker, also known as Spider-Man. The man is known for his quick wit and pop culture references, but is that who Peter Parker is, or is that hiding behind a broken kid underneath? Stay tuned and find out. I love doing these little breakdowns and going deeper into their motives and beliefs. I'm excited to share my ramblings with you and would appreciate any support by giving this video a like or subscribing for future content. As always, here's how we'll break it down. Their story arc and the key moments that shape them, their personality type and why it fits them so perfectly, and the traumas, wounds, and experiences that drive their behavior. With the movie coming out this week, I figured that it would be kind of cool to break Spider-Man down. Not like break him down morally, but like talk about him. Spider-Man is probably the most popular superhero out there, right next to Batman and Superman. Why? Because he's funny, relatable, and strong as hell, but he's very humble about it. His story has been done multiple times, dozens in the comics and cartoons, and 3 times in the movies. Speaking of which, who is your favorite version of him? Put your answers in the comment below, because I'm genuinely curious. I would have to be the different person and say that my favorite is Andrew Garfield. I think he's got the quirky, nerdy side of Peter Parker perfectly. Not that Tom Holland isn't good, I think he's amazing. But Garfield just felt like Peter Parker to me. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's get on with the overall history of Spider-Man. Peter Benjamin Parker was born in Forest Hills, Queens, New York City. He was raised by his Uncle Ben and Aunt May after his parents died in a plane crash when he was a child. The kid was brilliant, a scientific prodigy, but kind of a nerd. Aren't we all? During a science exhibit, one of the tiny little radioactive spiders decides to take a little nibble out of him, and suddenly he has superhuman strength, speed, and agility. He also gains the ability to stick himself to walls and ceilings. With this scientific smarts, he develops a gadget that lets him fire the adhesive webbing from his wrists. With all of that as the full package, he dons the superhero name Spider-Man, and he makes his cool little old costume that you can spot anywhere. During this time, a burglar breaks into their home and shoots his poor Uncle Ben, creating one of the most used lines in comics, later in the comics donned by Uncle Ben himself, "With great power comes great responsibility." After that, he uses his powers for justice and makes the streets safe. Unfortunately, money is an important part of life, and Peter has to make ends meet for him and Aunt May, so he decides to take some pictures for one J. Jonah Jameson, a hard-ass publisher for the Daily Bugle. He takes pictures of himself fighting villains like the Green Goblin, the Vulture, and Dr. Octopus. There's a pattern there if you haven't noticed. All of them are named after animals. Through all of this, he manages to complete high school and gets into Empire State University, where he meets his roommate Harry Osborn and girlfriend Gwen Stacy. Don't worry, MJ comes later, we can't forget about her. During a battle with Dr. Octopus, Gwen's father, George, dies during the battle between Doc and Spider-Man. Then later on, Gwen is thrown off the bridge by Green Goblin, where Peter swings in to save her. Unfortunately, our little science major does not factor in physics, and her neck is snapped because of how he webs her. He vows that day forward that Green Goblin is enemy number 1. And I mean, yeah, he's totally crazy. Working through his grief, he meets MJ, or Mary Jane. The two become friends, then become more, and eventually he proposes. And she says no. But that doesn't stop our little spider friend, as he graduates college and finds love again in Felicia Hardy, aka Black Cat. Look, he's a cute little nerd, the guy gets all the ladies. Then there's some crazy alien stuff where he comes face to face with the symbiote we know as Venom, and then they try to be buddies with each other, and the symbiote tries to use Peter and gets rejected. He shows up a few times after, seeking revenge. Then there's this weird clone thing between Peter Parker and Ben Reilly, aka Scarlet Spider, where we don't know which one is the real one and which one is the clone. MJ reveals that she's pregnant, Green Goblin poisons her and she loses the baby, and Norman Osborn, aka Green Goblin, reveals that he switched the results of Peter and Ben to ruin Peter's life. Look, Peter's life is a little crazy and wild. We're just here for the ride. There's way more story out there for our young little Spider-Man, where he becomes an Avenger, he finally marries MJ, gets the family, reveals his secret identity during Civil War, and way, way more. I highly recommend checking out Marvel Unlimited, where they break it down easily for people who are either new to comics or want to read a specific arc for his life. There's a lot out there, so brace yourself. Anyway, the reason we're here today. What kind of personality profile does our Spidey have? This fun-loving man, Peter Parker, can be labeled as the mediator, or INFP. Introverted, intuitive, feeling, and perceiving. This is our second INFP on our list. Do you remember who the other one was? That would be our Scarlet Witch. The not mutant thing. I am still reeling about that. Anyway, what does that look like for Peter Parker? Most people think that this type is quiet or unassuming because of their introverted portion. Not so. They tend to have a vibrant, passionate way to them. Creative, imaginative, happily losing themselves in daydreams, and is usually the person that you love and hate because they're so damn good at art or building things. We remember this from the Wanda video because she has to create the situations or things with her magic. Well, Peter kind of does the same thing, but with science. He has to make his web slingers, and he makes his own costume. The kid is a small genius. They're open-minded, kind, empathetic, and creative. Peter can make a friend out of just about anyone. In the Daredevil comics, after Daredevil manages to make the entire world forget that Matt Murdock is Daredevil, there's a cute moment where he asks Spider-Man for help out in Hong Kong. He obliges, and there's this nice little moment where they're hitching a ride on the back of a boat with his webs. They're basically skiing in the air. If you know Daredevil, he is the broodiest brood of them all, and always serious and never cracks, especially during a mission. But our friend here gets him to actually ski, and Daredevil admits that he was having fun. That is the power of Spider-Man. So let's break the letters down a little bit for him. What does each one mean? Introverted. He's socially awkward, prefers small circles, and internalizes guilt and grief deeply. Intuitive. He's driven by abstract moral principles, aka responsibility, not just immediate facts. Feeling. He constantly sacrifices his interests and himself for others. He's emotionally driven even when it's irrational. Perceiving. He improvises in combat and life. He's got some poor planning and is reactive to crisis. But as we do with every hero, what are his strengths and weaknesses? Well, let's go with the strengths first. Deep moral conviction and empathy. In the comics, when Norman Osborn offered Peter a place at his side for essentially power, money, and safety, Peter flatly refuses despite having almost nothing to his name. His morality isn't negotiable even when self-interest would benefit him. Resilient. He repeatedly rebuilds after catastrophic loss. By the end of No Way Home, Peter has lost May, lost MJ and Ned, and asks Strange to make the entire world forget him, then starts over completely alone from a bare apartment with no support system. He still suits up, highly intelligent and creatively adaptive. In the comics, Peter's designed his own web shooters, and as a teenager, the formula for webbing is considered nearly impossible to replicate by adult scientists in-universe. He regularly outmaneuvers enemies who are physically far stronger by engineering solutions mid-fight. Fiercely loyal and self-sacrificing. In the other arc and multiple others, Peter endures near death rather than endangering civilians or teammates. Most iconic, the Nothing Can Stop the Juggernaut arc, where Peter fights an essentially unstoppable villain alone, beaten repeatedly, and refusing to quit because a woman's life depends on it. And no hero would be a normal person without some weaknesses. Chronic guilt and self-blame, or the Uncle Ben effect. In Kraven's Last Hunt, Peter is buried alive and essentially dead for 2 weeks. His internal monologue during this arc is consumed by guilt and unworthiness. Not fear of death, but a sense that he deserves suffering. The guilt isn't situational, it's his baseline state. Tendency to shoulder burdens alone rather than ask for help. During Civil War, rather than trusting his allies, Peter unmasks publicly under pressure from Tony, a massive personal sacrifice, then almost immediately regrets it and switches sides alone, telling no one of his plan. He consistently makes universe-altering decisions in isolation, indecisive when personal value conflict with each other. In Spider-Man Far From Home, Peter spends nearly the entire film paralyzed between wanting a normal teenage life and accepting his responsibility as a hero. He hands the Edith glasses to Mysterio, a catastrophic error, largely because he couldn't decide what kind of person he wanted to be. Indecision made the decision for him. Prone to burnout from commitment, constantly overwhelmed. Throughout the Brand New Day and Big Time eras, Peter is perpetually late, broke, professionally failing, and socially unreliable. not from laziness, but from the impossibility of maintaining a full civilian life along constant heroism. His personal life is a permanent casualty over commitment. When it comes to trauma, you wouldn't think a character like Spider-Man would have so much of it. He's so easygoing, fun, and bubbly. He just has a few moments that are hard times, right? No. If you read the comics, you know how wrong that is. This kid has been through so much pain and suffering. The real strength of Spider-Man is how is he still standing? During the Dying Wish storyline, Dr. Octopus takes over Spider-Man's body and he realizes that he has been holding back every time they fight. Peter could wipe the floor with these people and yet he holds back every time. But he's been through some shit in his time. Let's look at those moments. Parental abandonment or death. Early childhood. Richard and Mary Parker died when Peter was very young, leaving him with no memory or relationship with them. He was raised by an elderly aunt or uncle, loving, but not his parents. In attachment theory terms, Peter never had the chance to form a secure base, and the one that built with May and Ben was always tinged with fragility. This leaves a deep, largely unconscious fear of losing caregivers, which becomes self-fulfilling. Ben dies. May is repeatedly endangered. His history is tinged with loss. Uncle Ben's death. Peter lets a burglar run past him moments before the same burglar killed Ben. He made a conscious, selfish choice, basically saying, "Not my problem," and it had irreversible consequences. This is not survivor's guilt. It is perpetuator-adjacent guilt, which is significantly harder to process because it contains a kernel of real responsibility. It instills a belief that inaction is moral failure, which is why he overcommits constantly. Doing nothing feels like killing someone. Chronic social rejection. Before the spider bite, Peter was a consistent target. Academically gifted, but physically small, socially awkward, financially poorer than peers, he was isolated across years of development. His humor, the constant Spider-Man quips, is a clinically recognizable shame defense. Deflect with jokes before anyone can see the wound. Gwen Stacy's death. Gwen's death is uniquely devastating because it removes Peter's ability to use his standard guilt framework. With Ben, he was passive. With Gwen, he tried his hardest and she died anyway. That's a different and in some way worse psychological injury. The comics present a brutal irony. It may have been Peter's own web, shot to catch her fall, that snapped her neck from the deceleration force. He tried to save her and may have been the direct physical cause of her death. Whether intentional in the original writing or not, this detail has been canonically discussed and represents a no-win trauma. Action and inaction both lead to death. Secret identity burden. Most superheroes have secret identities. Few carry the weight Peter does, because his two identities are not just different names, they are psychologically opposed selves. Neither identity is fully authentic. Peter performs weakness as Parker and performs confidence as Spider-Man. There is no space where he is simply himself. When the identity is exposed, as in Civil War, it doesn't bring relief. It brings catastrophe, reinforcing that his true self, being known, leads to destruction. At the start of this video, I asked a simple question. Is Spider-Man's humor who Peter Parker really is, or is it hiding a broken kid underneath? I think by now we know the answer. It's both, and that's exactly the point. Peter Parker is proof that you can carry an enormous amount of pain and still choose to show up for other people. That the mask isn't always a disguise, sometimes it's the only thing holding you together long enough to do what needs to be done. He is, without question, the most rich storytelling hero in comics, and the most human one. We watch him grow up, and we get to see all of the pains in life as he goes through them. If you've enjoyed this breakdown, hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And seriously, drop your favorite Spider-Man version in the comments. I've already told you mine. Now I want to hear yours. Take care of yourselves, and remember, with great power comes great responsibility, even if your power is just getting out of bed today.